Welcome back to the shop, everybody. We are finally getting on the wagon to do the Sick Smokies updates that I want to do to the car before the trip. Sorry about the loud fan. I gotta have something in here. It is hot. So anyway, here's what we got going on. It's a lot of the stuff that I'm putting on the car. This is a line lock from Summit Racing. Putting that on there. We've got hood pins somewhere. Got a hood pin kit we're going to put on. These cool cables. Got these traction bars. Now these are the old school traction bars that were actually on this rear end on my Mach 1 when I used to drive this car back to high school. So together again, like Ike and Tina, they're going to be there. So got to sandblast these, get them painted up looking nice, get those mounted on there. We've got an overflow tank here for the radiator, because you just got to have that, man. You can't be putting coolant all over the track, all over the racetrack. Courtesy of my good buddy Israel Mount. Slid that my way. We've got a steering stabilizer here. Don't know if we're going to put this on just yet. It really hasn't been, haven't had any death wobbles or anything since I put the new pitman, or not pitman, but the new drag link on. So I don't know if I need this, but I may go ahead and put it on if I have time. This is the kind like what you would see. I'm gonna put it back in that box. This is the kind like you would see on a Volkswagen Beetle. So really simple design, tried and true, been around a long time. Little fella right there. It'll work like a charm. So get that on there. What else we got? Got some new tie rod ends from the old people out at Moog. What else? Oh, it's pretty cool. I've had this. I bought this from the marketplace a while back. Old school Moon gas pedal. We're gonna see if we can get that on. That's not really a priority, but we'll do it if we can. Old school tachometer. Go ahead and get this out of the bag. I bought this at a swap meet, and so it's in a Ziploc baggie. It's a little bit worse for wear, you know, but so's the car, you know? So hopefully it works. I don't know if it works. We're gonna find out. Took it out of the box, you know, the lens is off of it, but it twists on there. Got some glue on there, you know, that was free. I didn't have to pay extra for that. But right now, I don't know if it means anything, but it's sitting at about, I don't know, about 200 RPM. I don't know if that'll straighten itself out. I don't know, we'll see. It's the Sun Super Tac 2 or Dose, if you're Spanish. Let's see here. Well, we're gonna have to move this needle here. This needle, I mean, all the way around to the 8, because, you know, that's where stock small block Chevys like the red line at. You know, everybody knows that. All right, we'll leave it at 6 for now. Still a little too high. Anyway, we got that. Got this fancy chrome alternator bracket, courtesy of Mr. Mike Lohorn. What we got? Oh, the coup de grace. Kingpins. So we got to put some of these in. Kingpins and bushings. Alright, we got those. And I've got the factory parking lights we're going to mount up here somehow. Probably have to fabricate something. We're going to put those right up here on the front. They were in the bumper before. We don't have a bumper anymore, so we're going to go up here. We're going to figure a way to mount these kind of right there, something like that. I think that'll work perfectly. Again, together again, just like I continue. What else we got? That's all we got in the box for now. So that's what we're at. We're gonna be working on this stuff. Oh, and we got to move the leaf springs. These rear leaf spring brackets here that I built and welded on, they've got to be moved back about 3.5 inches. All right, so the kingpins and the leaf springs and the traction bars, those are probably the most important things. Then I would say after that, the line lock, because, well, good's traction bars without a line lock. I mean, you need to have the line lock to do burnout. So that's where we're at. We're going to get started on this, and I think we got plenty of time. Hopefully we'll get her done. There you have it. That's how you install hood pins, or at least that's the way I do it. The end result is the hood's not going to fly up and bust my windshield, tear up my hood, tear up my roof. When we're doing 150, I don't know. But we're winding down on the preparation for Sick Week, Sick Smokies, and we're going to be working on the wagon today. We've got about 46-ish days left before we got to leave. We're cushioning that a little bit. We're going to be putting the line lock on today, and we're going to do some work on the brake lines and see what we can get tidied up. We got regular work days too, so we're working, you know, in our between times of my regular job and church and family and all kinds of other stuff going on too. So we're trying to get this knocked out. I think we're going to have time. I'm waiting on some tooling to come in so that I can hone my kingpin bushings, and I think we're going to make it, but stay tuned. Okay, so one of the things on the list that I wanted to knock out was to move these leaf spring brackets, these mounts that I built and welded on, you can see, back. And this mark here indicates roughly where I want the center of this pin to be. And the reason is, when I put this front straight axle in, it had been sitting in a field for a long time. And I don't really know how long, but it was long enough to where these springs in the relaxed position with no weight on them, basically they're arched as far as they want to go. It's up to them, laying out in the sun. So they sit that way a long time, and they kind of got stuck that way. And whenever I put this in, I put the weight of the car on it with no mounts on here at all. And then I set the spring here on the frame, and I set it down on the concrete with the engine in it and everything, with the weight on it and all that. And I made a mark, and the center of that mark was here. So that was where I welded those on. Well, we took this off the lift 4 o'clock in the morning on the way to power tour, and by the time we got to Nashville, looked at it, and these springs had stretched out so far that the bottom of this mount was sitting here. This had swung back to where it was pointing, this arm was pointing back like this. And that was sitting there. And it really didn't hurt anything, but it was clanging around. And, you know, it really wasn't, that changed my angle of my kingpins too. So what I want to do is I want to build new mounts. I want to build new ones of these. And I'm going to cut these off. I'm going to leave that part, obviously. But I'm going to cut these off. And I'm going to move this back, and I'm going to make a new mount to weld onto here, and I'm going to weld these back to it. Now, I made a mark on this with it sitting in here, but this wasn't all the way back like it was before. So I've just kind of guessed where that was. So what I want to do is I want to set it on these 2 jacks right here, and I'm going to bring the lift down, not so far to where I completely unload these, because that could be bad, but enough to where there's pressure on it, and then I'll let it push on it for a while and get some weight on it and stretch the springs out a little. And I may pull down on it a little bit and try to get those to where they're laid all the way back again, to where these are sitting on there. That way I can get an accurate point of measurement to where I want to put the new mount on. Now when I get that on there, I'm assuming that these springs, you know, stretched out a normal ride height where I want it. I'm assuming that I want this arm, you know, when it's all back here, to not be clocked exactly at 6 o'clock. And the reason I'm saying that, my hillbilly geometry tells me that whenever this car is sitting on its wheels and tires, with me in it, my wife in it, all our stuff in it, everything, ready to go down the road, my theory is that these springs will, whenever the car compresses down on the springs flatten out and they get longer. The amount that this moves is more in this direction than it is in this direction. It'll move in this direction whenever the car's rebounding up from a bump, and it'll go this direction when it's going down on a bump. All you scientists out there, I'm not a scientist, you know. I'm doing hillbilly geometry here in a shop working on an old car. And if you're a scientist and you know that I'm wrong, feel free to tell me, and I believe you. I will change it for sure, because a lot of y'all know more than I do. I'm being serious about that. I'm not being smart aleck. I'm being serious, because I don't know everything. I'll be first to tell you that. Some people tell you I don't know much of nothing, and they might be right. Let's get to work. I'm gonna go ahead and let it down onto these big stands here and just put some pressure on it and just kind of see how the shackles react. I know we're not gonna be able to compress the springs far enough to get them lengthened out to where they will be after you drive it a couple miles or whatever, but I want to see some indication of what it's going to do. So let's just check it out, see what happens. All right, coming down. Tailpipe. So that's let the weight all the way off of the lift. So I'm thinking we're going to look pretty good. Once we get the weight on the car, I think it's going to turn out real nice. Well, now that we have the leaf spring mounts completed, we're going to move on to the kingpin bushings.